Hi everyone, and welcome to the Zoom session Q&A for assessment task 2. And I appreciate everyone's understanding and patience while I was marking assessments and was unwell. Tonight's session will be quite informal. I'll give students opportunities to ask questions and do my best to answer anything in relation to the content. Anything administration-wise may need to be referred to Darren, who's the unit coordinator. So I will open it up now to any student who's got some questions.
Can I jump in, Daniel?
Yeah.
I'm wondering when it's talking about the organisational theory informing the organisation. So I know that in our last assessment, we went through those 10 points of what an organisation theory could be.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, though, when you're looking through websites and whatnot, most organisations are not going to be formally telling you what they're actually working under.
Mm-hmm.
I'm therefore wondering, if it's not explicitly said, are we therefore looking at the content that's there and making an informed decision ourselves as to what we think they're working with?
Exactly. So you would have a look at things such as their decision-making processes, some policies, procedures, if they're available on their websites, which I believe a lot of human service organizations are, and then that would be informing your decision. And you would, in your presentation, like this would be the theory that it seems that they would fit well or align with that organization. Does that make sense?
And they might have like two that they might fit with?
Exactly. So, and it's your presentation, so you're able to sort of design that the way that you would like. I will say, go into saying that, this assignment is, I think, a lot easier than the first assessment task because it is based on organizations and, it's not that theoretical based as well. So I'm really looking for your drive in this, and how can I word that appropriately? So, the content that you produce is what I'll be marking on. So I think it's a lot easier to mark this assessment than the first assessment, if that makes sense.
Can I also ask, is there an overarching rationale, like something that I should have in my head when I'm approaching this? I know it says you're a social worker and you're researching, doing an analysis on an organisation, but am I maybe looking at that as a potential workplace? Am I maybe just looking at that as what's out there in the community? I thought that might help me get my headspace actually correct.
I suppose it's in relation to understanding how the organization operates, works from, what theories they adapt in relation to when you are a social worker and you're within an organization. Okay, how can you make that work for you? What are going to be the limitations? What are going to be the advantages, for example? How it might be a good fit, might not be a good fit, what the client, what the target groups are. It's to give you an understanding, not just on a community-based level, but also on the wider scale of things as well. It'll also, I suppose, if you wanted to keep into context, more relevant and upcoming, this is something to consider as well when you go into placement, which I believe will be next year, first semester for you guys.
So really I am a social worker. Does this align with my ethics, my values, those principles? How do I see that I would function in that environment? Is that sort of the thinking?
I suppose you're putting it quite more personal than I would consider it. Let me just check some quick notes. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand what tack I'm really taking with that PowerPoint. I'm speaking to this content, but what's my relationship to that information that I'm presenting to other people?
So are you looking at the second dot point, the role of social work in the organization, how it aligns with professional values and ethics? Sorry, I'm not quite sure I'm
Yeah,
understanding.
no, that's certainly part of it. But for me, when I'm trying to work out how am I going to set out this PowerPoint, and I know that we have certain points that we have to hit,
Mhm.
but when I'm delivering that information, and we'll be doing that, to a group of 6 people and to you probably,
Mhm.
my thinking about what that information means to me, what my context is for giving that information informs how I present it. How I start off talking about it. Am I literally just starting off going, I have investigated this organization, and now I'm just going to provide you an overall analysis of, their organizational structure, blah, blah, blah.
I think this is the brilliant part of the second assessment. It's entirely up to you. As long as you're answering what this assessment task has required, it's up to the group's individuals to present how they would like to present it. Is that okay? Do you need me to perhaps elaborate further, or?
No, so I can just take whatever tack feels comfortable for me as long as I'm imparting all the information that you want on the criteria, basically.
Exactly. So, like, for example, some students last year did it really quite formally. Had their introduction to welcome to country, all those particular things. Some took it like a step back and was a bit more informal. You know, all presentations were marked equally. It's how you want to sort of structure them. That's why I love the second assessment after coming from the first assessment, which has been quite tough for a lot of students. The second assessment is a lot lighter and a lot less theory driven. So I'm not looking for for students to get sort of overwhelmed and possibly stressed out with the theoretical side of things. It's the investigation side of things as well. Looking out there, what organizations might be good fits. After having an assessment that's been heavily theory driven, and now let's look at how we can actually apply this.
Yes, it feels very interpretive. I'm looking at this organisation, I'm interpreting the information there, and then I'm sharing what I believe it fits within these certain points that I have to cover.
Exactly, and there will be some theory, that obviously is involved in this as well, but that'll inform by the research, and what you actually present as well, and what's submitted. And I think unless they've actually, I won't answer at this time, but I believe that the third assessment just follows on nicely from this as well, unless I find that they've changed something else on me from last year, but it should just follow on quite nicely.
And just to keep dominating, I was just wondering, on the profile, it says that we put the PowerPoint in the day before our presentations, but our presentations have all moved sort of a week back, Daniel. Is that still going to be the case?
As long as I have it before your time slot, it's not an issue. Okay, so this is the predicament. So last year I was the unit coordinator as well as the lecturer, so that just meant that I managed everything, these time slots and all that. This time it's quite different. I don't have access to the scheduling and that sort of the side of things, so that has to be fed through Darren. But I'm happy no one's going to be penalized. I can't imagine why there would be a disadvantage as long as I have it before your presentation, just so that's, I suppose, fair across the board. I'm happy with that.
So Daniel, just to jump in there on that note, you just said we won't be penalised. So just the unit profile does state week 9, Monday the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Monday the 13th at 11:45. So that's irrelevant. We can disregard that.
Yeah. As long as I have it before your
presentation day.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks.
Hi guys. This might be a question that should be more directed to Darren, because it is fairly technical. So I understand we're sending through our PowerPoint. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Then the way I imagine we present would be like, the Zoom looking back at us, like we need a projector so we can skip through the points as we're delivering?
No, I can answer. This question. I think this question was raised just before we started as well. The recording. So I'd imagine it'll be run the same as it was run last year, and this is why I've said that as long as I have it before your presentation, the PowerPoint. It's because I think a lot of students have emailed me, and possibly Darren as well, because people have been put in different groups, different time slots, and it seems to be a bit mixed up at the moment, right? So I appreciate everyone's patience as well with that. So with Zoom, when I host a session like now, I can share my screen if I wanted to, and you would be able to see what's on my desktop. If I had a PowerPoint up, notes I'm working on, for example. So I will give permission for students during the presentations to share their screen. So someone, if it's in a group, someone from that group will share their screen. The PowerPoint will then open, and they will be able to change the slides and walk through to the group, walk it through for the group. Okay.
So you're able to see our PowerPoint or our screen and also us, is that right? Or
No.
will it just be looking at the screen and just hearing us talk?
It'll be just looking at the PowerPoint.
Okay, yeah.
So,
I was just wondering how, because I did think about the screen sharing, but then thinking if you got split to us, like how it was going to fit. But yeah, I think that makes a lot more sense, yeah.
Yeah, so it's essentially, this assignment is not as, it doesn't have to be as stressful as hopefully some of the other tasks have been. Some other questions?
Daniel, I've just got a question in regards to the roles that social workers play in the organisation we've chosen.
Mm-hmm.
In the organisation I've chosen, there is a section on the website that lists the people that work there
Mm-hmm.
and the positions they hold,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't give a deep description of the roles they play. It tells me their qualifications and their approach to the practice,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't actually in-depth explanation of the role. So I just don't want to be making assumptions or fitting it in and wording it to my assignment if that's not allowed.
Okay. So this was one of the issues that had come up that I just noticed. I think it could have been this week, last week, in relation to what had been changed in one of the course profiles from last year to this year. And I put that post announcement up about interviewing the organisation. And so that was left out, something that I hadn't picked up on until now. So look, a lot of NGOs, if not all of them, that I can think of the top of my head, usually don't have core social work roles. They're usually human service roles that social workers fill. I'm sure there would be a couple, but it'd be few and far between. So that's why I made a suggestion of perhaps looking on Seek. If it's a larger organization, there might be position descriptions, job vacancy advertisements that have been posted, and that's kind of what I imagine. Without giving the answer away, that's kind of what I imagine most of the responses will be. They will start off by saying, "Well, this is an organization that does not have a core social work role. However, these roles are filled by social workers. This is how it fits within social work, etc." Does that make sense?
It's also my understanding that if you were to sit down with a social worker, they laid out all the things that they do, could tell you, you can't in-text reference a conversation, so kind of is.
Yeah, and I'm not looking for a lot of references this assignment. This is why I'm saying this is the beauty of this assignment, especially for me. The first assignment is a mammoth task. It is huge. It's a big one for the first one. the next two assessments that you guys did, this one and the next one, are a lot more relaxed. Okay, I'm not looking for references, like 10, 8. Look, I'm looking for a couple, like maybe like 3, 4, if that. Like this is all going to be references from the organization. This is going to be how it informs the hang on, let me try to find my words again appropriately. It's going to be any references as going to be informing probably the theories that you've applied or that you believe fit this organization. And of course, I can't stress enough, it's going to be any references that relate to the AASW. Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Could you say that this assignment is more so the basic information about the organisation, because the third one is where we go into more the analysis side of it?
I don't want to say like it's
like, I don't mean like basic, but like you did say, like the course of the social worker in the organisation tend to be this. It aligns with the AASW Code of Ethics, practice standards, whatever. But then in the third assignment, you're going into more in-depth information about that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably, if we could find a word that wasn't just basic, I think that's kind of how I would describe it as well.
Yeah, that was just the first word that come to my mind.
It's all right, I can't think of another one right now. It's not on top of my head. But yeah, it's and you've got 7 minutes. I have been told, on that note, so last year I was a little bit more relaxed with the students. This year I can't be. I've told basically for like the second that you go over, that's 1%. Okay. So, and I have to be very firm with that this time. So last year it was like 7 to 9 minutes, and then, I could give a little bit of leeway. This year, no, 7 minutes, that's it. And it's 1% gone for every minute I believe that goes over.
So I think that's why I was thinking basic, because lack of a better word, because it is only 7 minutes that we can talk. So we can't really say too much without going over.
Exactly. And I think this one it sounds concerning, because like you said, you've got 7 minutes, and it's like, kind of confusing after coming from an assessment that has been like what that is, and to this one here, you're like, oh, okay, how's this going to, am I going to do this and get a good result that I want? But this one is a lot more relaxed. Okay, guys, as long as you're answering the assessment question, going through like, mission, values, looking at the ASW stuff, potential social worker roles, and you're on the right track, and you're probably going to get the result that you want. Unless I'll give anything too away. I will give away one more hint before I forget. This happened quite a few times last year. Technology, organizational technology, is probably not what a lot of you think it is. So I can't give you the answer, but I would just be saying to make sure that you go away and make sure that you understand what that is.
It's in the textbook.
Yes, it will be in the textbook. All right.
Can I just ask a question? Just actually, because my next one was about technology, and I've been trying to wrap my head around that. So I started looking at the organization has like annual reports and stuff, which talks about their relationships with research and how it informs what they do. Is that going on the right track of where they get what they do and why they do it? I don't know if that's giving away the answer, but that's how I was thinking of going in that.
I guess the best example I can give of organizational technology is how the organization achieves their goals. So if I was to look at, say, Headspace, the technology might be counseling, case management.
So you could say it's the technology is the people and the programs they use to...
There's probably quite a few ways that you could describe it. But again, I don't sort of want to go into too much on this Q&A, just because I feel then that might be somewhat prejudicial to other students, and for anyone who doesn't have a look at it, I would say definitely have a look at Madonna's lecture on that. And if people are still having issues, then of course pop it up on the Q&A, and that's a different forum. Does that make sense? Just because if I'm giving away answers, sort of answers, I say in that sense, in a Q&A session, I feel, do you see how that's can be somewhat prejudicial? So yeah, if it's still an issue, if it's a teaching.
No, it's all right, Darren. It's all right, Daniel. We'll tell them to watch it. It's okay. If they haven't watched it, we'll tell them to watch it. No, I understand where you're coming from, but totally. But yeah, like the technology, it's in the textbook. I was a bit stumped on it, and there's actually a section on it which will make it a little bit clearer for everyone. That's just, what I think.
Yes, thank you for that, Anders, because it was an issue last year, and people were like, oh no, they use computers and telephones, and it was like, oh, that's not what it is. All right. So who's got some other questions?
Daniel. Oh, sorry. The transcript that I'm going through now with the PowerPoint, do you want me to attach it? I'm thinking it's a backup plan in case, say, my power goes out, or, because I'm timing it with each slide of the presentation now. So do you want to see maybe an appendix maybe on the transcript? No, too much information, rabbit hole maybe?
Well, I just think I wish there was a way that I could sort of phrase this that won't get me in trouble. Look, this assessment is a really a pleasure for me to mark, because I don't need to be as strict as perhaps some might feel that I was in the first assignment. Right, I'm not looking for like a lot of that theoretical content. I'm just looking for that overview. I understand the 7 minutes. It's not. I'm also sort of not marking. Could I say like no one failed this assessment task last year? Would that?
Oh, I'm happy with that answer, Daniel. I know you're still recovering, so I'm happy with that. I was just searching as a backup plan. I always like to have backups, that's all. So
if the power went out, or if something like that happened, then those situations are just out of your control. You just get another go. I can't imagine, unless all of a sudden there's 6 or 7 students that have their power go out, then we'll have to look into that. But yeah, if something technical happens, that's not an issue. I think I did have one student last year that did disconnect. Her internet, I'm not sure if it cut out or was low bandwidth or whatever. Yeah, and I just arranged for her to do it another time.
No, I found using a transcript's really handy to go through each slide. I'm just, I suppose, putting it out there. Yeah, okay, thanks.
But no, and I don't need to see it.
I have a question about the Indigenous cross-cultural thing, if you like. In the course profile, in the task or the assessment criteria, there's no mention of that. But a bit further down, in the graduate attributes, it's got cross-cultural there. Now, normally, no matter what it says, we always have to have something about that. Is this a...
All right. So no, I wouldn't say this assessment has to demonstrate cross-cultural competence. It's not there on the criteria. I'm sure probably a lot of students will weave something in their assessments, as most of them tend to do. If the organization has an Indigenous worker, for example. But no, I'm not looking specifically on something on cross-cultural competency. Like, the assessment criteria, it's got four particular points. You know, and also, like, I'm not going to, it's like the last one is in relation to clear verbal communication. You know, grammar, spelling, punctuation. So if everyone gets nervous doing speeches and having to present in a large group, I still, every time, not so much in classrooms, but still every time in court now, almost wet myself before I have to stand up. Like, it's not an easy task. You know, people get difficult, stutter a bit. Like, I'm not looking for that. I'm not going to grade on that. Purely, I suppose, I would encourage you to take a breath. If you feel like you're getting worked up as well, like, take that breath. You know, that's okay. I think that last criteria is just really around, don't show me a PowerPoint presentation that literally is like, you know, 4 dot points and a picture. You know, like, put a bit more work into it than that, I suppose. And the right spelling.
Fair enough.
Okay, also on the PowerPoint,
yeah.
I know you said before about referencing and all that, but you're just more or less referencing the points on the PowerPoint and then have a reference page at the end. It's similar to what we get presented in our Moodle sites, something like that?
Yeah, something similar to that. And like I said, the majority of references are going to be probably the website or different documents from the website.
Yep. Yep, okay. And so, and this is just to recap, because I was looking at the theories as well, thinking that you wanted us to explain what organisational theory they would be running from as well, but you're not looking about that. You're looking about, or are you as well?
So it's am I getting an echo there? You know, it would be in relation to, you know, you're making an informed decision what you believe the organization possibly is working from, what theories they might utilize in that organizational context. But you know, at the end of the day, as long as you're answering this assessment task and the making sure that it aligns with the assessment criteria, most people will do a fantastic job.
Daniel, I'm sorry, it's a really stupid question, but you just said you don't want a PowerPoint with dot points and 1 picture. Yeah. So I just want to know, like, do you want effects put in it? Like, because I just feel like we're basically taking info from a website and extending on it. I just want to know, like, what you're hoping to see, because I kind of thought it was going to be a bit bland. That's all.
Okay. So when I say, like, you know, not 4 dot points in a picture, like, you know, I think we've all seen those kind of presentations where someone just like puts up, you know, okay, you know, it's about speaking to it. So, you know, your slides have to be relevant. So I know some of the, and a terrible example for some of the PowerPoints I've seen some lecturers use, not the greatest example. I'd say, you know, for example, if you're going to give a PowerPoint presentation on, say, like your slide will be the mission statement. Okay, so you have the mission statement possibly come up, or then what informs the mission statement? You know, what are some dot points? More engaging. If you were to look at, say, the decision-making process of an organization. Okay, don't just like say, okay, this is how they make decisions. They have a board of directors. What about a flow chart? What about, you know, something that makes it more visually engaging that you can actually speak to and walk someone through as well? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
Daniel, I know that we were given a list that we could choose from, and I already know that you've said that non-government. So I'm just wondering, like, I was interested in more of a disability field. It wasn't on the list, but I felt that I could make an informed decision and use that anyway because it was still non-government. Is that okay?
That's fine. I think that I was unclear with that list as well. I think it had been changed from last year. So I would see.
Yeah, but on that, it says non-government, but they can be funded as well. However, it could be funded by government or non-government sources.
We could get into a whole debate about this. I believe that
That's the same thing, Tamara. That threw me off as well when said non-government, I'm like, oh, but then you read on, can still be funded by government. So
I'm happy
really,
as long as it's not, and as long as you're not doing partner and child safety, or you're not doing public guardian, for example. I'm happy. All right. So other questions?
And I just wanted to clarify that we're definitely having no question and answers, right? It's just we get in, we do our 7 minutes, we're respectful to everybody else that's doing their presentations, then it's over.
Yeah, so I was tossing up with this as well, but just so last year what I had done is I gave students the opportunity at the end of their presentation, if they could, if there was parts that I felt that they perhaps had just touched on too lightly and hadn't particularly answered in the way that that I needed, I had to give them the opportunity to ask them a few questions, and I would be able to give them perhaps some more points. But this time I've just decided that nope. No, you get your 7 minutes, that's it. Keep it fair across the board and just easy for everyone.
Do you have any particular content that you would like more focus on, or we're just trying to look at all those different points and just divvying them up as equally as we can in that 7 minutes?
So let's have a look at this assessment criteria, because this is the part that I always struggle with, because sometimes some people answer some fantastically, others not so well, and other parts really strongly. So the criteria this time, you've got 4. You're probably going to spend quite a bit of time speaking about the background of the organization, the goals, the structure, environment, technology, all that sort of, and the theory. I'd possibly say more so than the social work side of things, the ASW side of things. Look, again, it's up to the individual, but I'd be thinking something like an even split. Wouldn't it be like 3.5 minutes each around? I can't, I don't want to disadvantage anyone if I say otherwise, especially for people who've already been working on them. So I will kind of just leave that up to the individual. But I would be thinking it would be kind of a sort of an even split.
Daniel, just confirming what Joel was talking about before. We don't have to actually show our PowerPoint on a split screen. You're going to do that while we're talking. Is that correct?
No. So one of the, either if you're an individual, you'll be doing it, and if you're in a group, someone from the group will be doing it. So so go on.
So I've got to share the screen with my PowerPoint on it.
Yes.
Okay then. And one other question, Daniel. Under the assessment criteria, details reflective practice focused on findings and leading to key insights and conclusions gained from research of the chosen human service organisation. Have you got any bit more clarification on that, please, Daniel, on that sort of like the reflective practice part of it?
Sorry, so I'm just going to make sure, where am I looking for that?
Under the assessment criteria, mate.
Criteria?
I think it's the third one.
Okay, so that's about, for example, reflective practices, essentially. You've gone in, you've researched it, so okay, then you've gone away, you've reflected, you've thought about it, and you go, okay, well, based on this, this is that informed decision making, based on this, this is why I believe that this organization comes from a feminist perspective, or comes from a human relations perspective. And I reached this because of that, or this conclusion is from this, for example. And then you'd be looking at the implications for social work within it. So, I mean, if I was to say, bureaucratic organizations such as the Public Guardian or Department of Child Safety, what are the implications for social workers in that? Even if it was an NGO, you could say looking at things such as a alternative school, because they would still be, I suppose, governed by some legislation. I think it's the Teaching Act, something around 2006, mandatory reporting. So having to, you would have to then disclose what someone's telling you, if it's a young person, et cetera, et cetera. So those kind of implications, and what they would have then in relation to the social workers' values or the ethics as a whole, and that side of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So my organisation is based on evidence-based practice, sort of. So I'd sort of go into that and sort of look about the theories they use and stuff like that in particular, and break that down, what their theories are, and break it down, sort of, and sort of talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So just making sure as well that we are focusing this from an organizational perspective as well. So what sort of theories, but also or mainly should be applying the theories from Jones and May. I'm not looking. Of course, we can speak a little bit about strengths, CBT, that sort of side of things. But we're looking from an organizational perspective.
Okay, so the theory in that book that we did, like in the first one, apply them theories to this organisation and break that down, basically.
Well, how it would, because they're probably not going to tell you that they're going to say like, okay, yes, we come from this sort of framework or this perspective. So you're going to have to sort of, with your research, have a look at it and go, okay, well, this organisation, based on what I presented to you, perhaps this is my conclusion. This is why it's a good fit. This is why I believe that this theory fits with this organization, or these two theories fit with this organization, based on the information that I've gathered and presented to you today that has informed this.
And the structure of the organisation, how them theories fit into that organisation. And so I sort of would say, I think it's, the organisation's theory is based on this theory.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be picking more than one, or 10. You'd be picking, like, say, it probably would be a good fit for either one or two. It probably would be fit into organisation. I can't imagine that there'd be much more flow on from other theories, but about one or two people in.
Lovely, excellent. Thanks, mate.
No worries.
All right.
Some other, I will say on the note of, I'll have to make this announcement too, because this one threw me as well once, and it wasn't in social work, it was for law. Someone had had a presentation and then they'd shared their screen and forgot to close a Lesson Savvy tab that was open. It was quite funny. So I will make that announcement and make sure that everyone has closed that, because that was very funny, but I'd imagine that I don't want to embarrass a student. So to make sure that everyone closes any documents or internet sites they don't want open when they start sharing their screen, because it is hilarious. The best story that I have is when I second year of law school, someone had transferred over and had not used Zoom before, hadn't realized that because when it first opens, you can just see either one person or change it to a grid view, and they'd not realized that you can have grid view. So they're kind of sitting there in their underwear and not realize that everyone could see them. It was hilarious. Probably not for them, but for me, I found it quite funny. All right, so other question, guys?
We need to be touching on a little bit about, the organisation, and we're talking about the environment, so a little bit of that politics that's around, what's happening for organisations now and social work within that, or that's just going too far?
I mean, you could, but it's 7 minutes. And it's not, 7 minutes goes really quickly. So, I mean, I think it does say the organisation environment. So, I mean, I would touch on it, but I mein, you're not going to get this really, really in-depth one. I think there was one group last year, and they just crammed so much in, and they were speaking 100 miles an hour. And it's like I said before, that last criteria is there for that reason as well. It's got to be clear. It's got to be clear so I can understand it. Some of it I was like, wait, what? So yeah, you can't cram everything into it.
No, I want to. I look at that content and I go, each one of those criteria in themselves have maybe 4 elements to them. So it's really that narrowing in on what is really really needed to be conveyed in 7 minutes?
So I mean, I would give, this is a tip that I would have. It's a tip that I didn't learn until I started being a solicitor. I used to have to write everything down, and I kind of wrote a script whenever I did anything. And it's a wonderful skill that I learned from quite a few senior barristers, where similar to a PowerPoint, PowerPoint's a great visual aid. You shouldn't read from a script. Have the aid there and speak to it. You'd be amazed, like practice, of course you need to practice, but you'd be amazed of how much more relaxed you actually are, how much more flow you can get, and how much more information that you can actually get across, rather than if you just sit there reading from a script really quickly. But each to their own. Some people would prefer to do it that way, but that would be a tip that I would suggest that, especially even some people develop as well, because it's really useful in social work, especially with group settings. All right. Have we got any other burning questions, or have I answered everything? And
yeah, just a quick one on the groups. We were able to sit on. I was on Sunday, but Brooksy and I sorted out a swap for his work, so I'm now on the Wednesday. Are we supposed to sit on the other groups? Well, I'd like to, out of respect, and just you can get a bit of an idea as well. I don't know. Is it just, do I just log in on the night that mine is due, which is the Wednesday, or
yeah, I think you just log into. So this is the tricky part with the split roles now. So you just log on to whenever your presentation is due, and I think it's 2 hours they've set aside. 2 hours for 1 hour, is it? 1 hour. So okay, so 1 hour per group. Okay, and there's two different groups. There's like a 1 hour, and then there's the next hour for some groups as well. I think that's how it's done. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you just log on for your group as I think there's 6 to an hour. I think it's done. I don't know. They change these things on me, and then I look like a fool. Yeah, just log on to yours, and because that's also, people do have interests, but some people aren't that comfortable presenting in larger groups and everything. So I think that's why they break it down as well. And it would be a nightmare for me to get away and mark and keep all my notes in order as well. So probably just easier, and then there's no background noise, or if it slows down the internet, I don't know how the Zoom exactly works 100%. Now I am just speaking crap, but I think the more people you do have, if it slows it down, I don't know. So yeah, just stick to your group, easier.
Okay, no worries. Thanks for that. So just to clarify, we're just sending through the PowerPoint. There's no word count on it, as long as it's got all the information that you're after, the background and all that. And it's our talk. So you don't even need a script for that.
Yep, just a
okay.
Yeah, well, the fourth criteria is on the PowerPoint, as I said before, about just not submitting 4 dot points. But yeah, it's the PowerPoint in the speech, etc.
Daniel, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to leave the session, but thank you for your time tonight. And yeah, dinner is calling, as they say.
No worries.
Yeah, thank you to the whole group. Thanks.
All right. Well, I'll probably stop the recording now. And I think all the questions have been answered.
I just have one quick.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah. So I am in a group 3, and would it still be right if all 3 of us were using the one computer, the one Zoom session?
Yeah, that's fine. So if you're in the same location, just don't have 3 computers set up side by side, because then you get that static and the echo. So just use the one computer then, and you'd all speak to the one computer. Excellent. Well, I'm going to stop the recording now. And then any other quick questions after I finish the recording for any of the students that might not be related to this one. But for now, I will stop the recording for this Zoom session.